Hi, so right now I'm going to walk through basically the whole project of what the code we included, including the Terraform, as well as a map reducer and yeah, reports. Yeah, so let's get started. So the project contains of two GitHub repos. The first one is the main repo that contains the Terraform and the sample workcon that we use to test initially in Hadoop. And another repository called Cloud Infra Project, which we include the main mapper and reducer application that will be run through Jenkins on Hadoop. And let's get started with initially the Terraform part that set up all the necessary infrastructure on GCP. So the Terraform part contains four main um, files. The first one is the main file that defines the client config, the bucket for the Hadoop, also some of the networks, and the Jenkins and SonarQube cluster that runs on Kubernetes. And also it uses a helm release to install necessary Jenkins and SonarQube files that's on the Kubernetes cluster. And after running Terraform init and apply, where we also defines the project ID, regions, and also the zones, and as well as the Hadoop VPC network, you can see the resources are successfully created. Where here is the cluster on Kubernetes that runs the Jenkins and SonarQube, and you can see this is where the services are. So this is Jenkins. So let me remove all these. This is Jenkins, and this is SonarQube. And now, after it's been deployed, now basically what we did is we set up some of the necessary connections from Jenkins to SonarQube, as well as from some credentials that's needed from Jenkins to GitHub, to get started to Google Cloud using the GCP credentials in here. And also we created a pipeline that's called Cloud Infra Project Pipeline that's connected to the GitHub that I mentioned earlier that has the mapper and reducer on it. And now I'm going to do a test run since we already set up the webhook for this one. So whenever we make any changes to the GitHub, it will trigger a webhook and run the build in this Jenkins. So let me show you a quick demo of how it does. So basically we can go to this GitHub repo and modify any of this code. So let's go to a reducer, for example, and let's see first signing. I think I need to change to a different Chrome that has my GitHub access, and I can modify the file. And for every line, we can print out in here. Print. This is the final project demo. So we can commit the changes. And we commit it directly to the main branch. Now this has been updated, and we can go back to Jenkins. You can see there's a new build that's being triggered through webhook, and it's now cloning everything that we have on our Cloud Infra project GitHub repo and planning to deploy it. So I'm gonna pause here and waiting for it to complete. But basically, if we look at the pipeline and how we did it, in the GitHub repository, we also define how the Jenkins will run, and it will first check out the code from the GitHub repository, scan it, and set up the result to SonarQube, and then SSH to the Hadoop we set up with the correct SSH keys and credentials, and then submit the Hadoop job using this using this command line. And while it's still generating, I can also direct back to show you the Hadoop cluster that we created in Dataproc. You see this is a Hadoop cluster that's been running, and there's a few jobs that's running as well. And it hasn't been submitted yet because the Jenkins is still building up. And once it did, I think the new job will show up. So we can wait for that. Okay, so now it's sending out the analyzed result to SonarQube. And it's successful. Now the rest of it is connecting to Hadoop, but we can also at the same time checking the SonarQube demo. Using it's been updated 50 seconds ago, which we just successfully run, and the result is a pass, so there's no error code. And then we can go back to see the job that's being triggered. So we can see this is a new job that's running, and we can also check in Hadoop. You see, yeah, it just started a new job. And it started to do some reducing. And give a few seconds for the job to finish. Yeah, still running, but at the same time I can still go back to the code. So we just went through the main Terraform. We also show the output that will display, let us know the cluster name, bucket, IPs of both Jenkins and the SonarQube. Some of the global variables that's been declared here as well. So this is some of the variables that we use. And that's pretty much everything in the Terraform. And in the MapReducer, yep, you see if successfully succeeded, and this is everything I added, basically a lot of printouts saying this is update that I did. And going back to the code, that it has basically three main things that we want to include. The first one is a Jenkins test that we define when we are setting up the pipeline in Jenkins, that this will be the script that we run, and this is a mapper and the reducer that will be copied to the bucket in a Hadoop data crop that will be run as well. So yeah, thank you so much. That's the end of the presentation for our project.